having a good day. What we got here today is a Portulacaria Afra. And I think because it's so difficult to say the scientific name, most people just call it a Dwarf Jade. It is important to note that it is not related to being to a jade at all, other than that they're both succulents. Jade is a Crassula ovata, and then there's all kinds of little subspecies and everything, but this is a Portulacaria, and I just call it a port most of the time, or a dwarf jade. It's also called an elephant bush because where they grow naturally in Africa, the elephants eat them, and they actually take cuttings so easily, the elephants kind of come through and just eat them and break off branches, and the branches that fall on the ground, they just kind of take. I'll probably make a separate video about taking cuttings, but you can find plenty of information about that. You just cut them, let them dry a little bit, stick them in soil, and I have almost 100% success. This is grown from a cutting, a couple years old. It is edible for humans too. I've tried it. It's not the best. I've thought about like looking up ways to, I've seen it suggested like with some salad dressing or whatever, but I mean, it's just kind of very plain tasting actually. And I think one time I Googled to see the nutrition content. It's not huge, so I don't worry about like growing them for food or anything like that, but they are edible even to humans. This was grown from a cutting, and it's got no nabari at all, and actually it's got a rock in there. Sometimes I plant these things with rocks and all kinds of things in there, hoping that they grab a hold of it or whatever. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that this rock is just in there. I had it in there to hold the cutting upright because it kept knocking over or whatever. But we're going to find out here in a little while. I'm going to trim it first. These are, like I said, a succulent. I don't water them hardly at all in the winter, but they don't seem to mind rainwater too much. But like through the winter, especially when it's cold, they definitely don't like any water. I mean, I've had 100% success with them, other than a couple that I think I've watered a little bit too much in the winter. But they don't seem to mind our rainy season either. Of course, they get plenty of sun, plenty of rain, and the rain is the best water for them. They are one of the only trees that I have that I fertilize like a lot. They can take just an enormous amount of fertilizer. They'll never burn up. When I go to repot it in a minute, you'll see that there's just all kinds of little osmocote balls in there, and that's the fertilizer I use most of the time. Most everything else I only fertilize like 3 times a year, but I do fertilize this quite often. But I'm going to prune it first, and then we'll repot it. I do look, one of the things, one of the most important part about keeping a decent bonsai tree is having good nabari. And I'm starting to learn that these guys just really hate to have their roots worked and try to get that nice spread on there or whatever. And really, right now, all this is just a stick going in the ground. Everything about it is decent. Some of these branches could have been placed a little bit better. I don't really like to wire them. I see a lot of people do, but they snap really easy. I've tried a couple times and haven't had much luck with it. But anyway, I'm going to trim it, and then we'll see what it looks like when I go to repot it. When I trim these again, you try to go for the rule breakers, the straight ups, the straight downs, and then just kind of like generally I hate to use the word, but head pruning, but it's kind of pruning to keep it within the profile of the size you're really looking for. And so, do that. If any of the viewers do eat them and have a good, maybe a recipe to mix them in, feel free to share. I've got my Barbados cherry trees that I get 2 or 3 cherries off of a month. They taste really good. But I am a teacher in Florida. They don't pay us much. Our retirement sucks. So part of my retirement plan is maybe I have to grow myself some food here. I actually heard one of our politicians say that we were partially paid in sunshine. So I guess I can take that sunshine and try to grow some food with it, since I might not be able to survive off of a retirement income. Guess we'll find out when I get old. I enjoy some of my bigger trees, but I'm finding I like trees like this a lot more. Easier to take care of, quicker to prune up like this. Don't hurt my back when I go to pick them up and take them in and out and move them around and in the sun, out of the sun, repot them and stuff. When I repot them, it doesn't take $20 worth of bonsai soil. I do have this right now in just straight potting soil. A couple of these up top here I probably wouldn't have reduced so much. And now I'm kind of coming back through a second time because I just kind of remembered that I'm going to repot it too, so I would like to have just kind of less in the way as I go to repot it. I think that'll do for now. After I get it repotted, I might find a couple more that need to come out. But alright, and here we go, ready to get it repotted. I'm repotting it mainly today to get a look at what the Nebaria looks like, and to get it in some better soil, and to get that rock out of there, and even just kind of even try to remind myself of why I had that rock in there to begin with. When I repot most trees, I try to not let the roots dry out too much. Ficus, I don't think it matters too much. I think there's some ficus that I've got out there, you know, the type of ficus that'll just grow in the boot of a palm tree or whatever, so I don't know why I worry about the ficus too much. But these being succulents, you know, I'll get started here and just kind of see what I've got before I even decide what it is I'm going to do. If I don't like what I see at all, I'm just going to take that rock out and put it right back in that pot with some better soil. If under the dirt there a little bit, if it looks good, you know, I might put in a little bit more of an improved pot, maybe a little more shallow or whatever, but again, I have no idea what the root ball looks like. This has been a cutting that's just lived in this pot its entire life. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and see what we got. And there's a whole bunch of little Osmocote balls in there. And it's one of the reasons why I want it. Well, either I want to try to remind myself of what that rock was for, or I want it out. Now it's got this good mat of roots. It's actually on the outside of that rock. That's not good, because now I can't use that mat of roots at all. The few of these that I've had, that I've tried to improve the Nebaria on, just take forever to recover. I can see that's what I'm going to have to do now. Anyway, out comes the rock, and sure enough, and I didn't have it wrapped around there or anything. I had just thrown that in there to try to hold the tree up, which means now this is my intended front, and now, you know, that's a big mistake I made, because if there's any decent Nebaria on it at all, and it would be all around the other side. Well, let's take a look here and see what else is here. I am going to snip off a couple of those longer roots here in a minute, but I do want to just look at this other side first before I do too much of that. And it's got some decent taper. And I'm going to have to probably... Well, I'm kind of glad I didn't start cutting those roots, because I might try to work that as part of the Nebaria and just kind of flatten it out a little bit. When I'm done today, I will definitely not be able to show you some prize looking tree here or anything like that. I'm going to pot it quite a bit higher. I think I am going to take this guy off. Just kind of a long piece there. There with that. Definitely not a great root ball or Nebaria, but might be something I can work with. Anyway, now that I know what's there, and give me some time to kind of think about what it is I'm going to do with it. Now, if this was a ficus, I'd probably take this outside and hose it off and just wash all that dirt right off there and everything. But man, when you do that to these ports, they really do hate that. When I go to replant it today, I'm probably going to plant it about that high. You can see it was up to about there. Probably going to plant it about that high so you won't see much of the spread. I might even only plant it up to about there where my finger is. But that's really just going to depend. I could get it right back in here. I'd really like to have like so many of these pots that just a little bit flatter. Because if I tried to plant it like that, first off it'd get too... I'm not really trying to, if I was trying to grow really big and massive, I could put it in there and try to let it grow out big and massive, but that's not what I'm trying to do. But if I put it in there like that, it probably gets super top heavy on me and get knocked over all the time. And then I'd have all the roots down here that I wouldn't be able to do anything with. I really want them to kind of spread and everything. Alright, so I think I found a decent pot for it. I got it in there with some wire to tie it in. It's a brown pot. I'll give you a little bit of a better look at it at the end. Right now, I'm just trying to get the camera angle here just to see what I'm doing with repotting it. I got the wires ready to tie in. I don't tie in every one of my trees. This one's a little top heavy. Even after I get it in there and tie it in, I may decide to go ahead and maybe just kind of, I don't know, cut the very top off. And what I'm going to do, I got some soil in the bottom there, is I'm going to go ahead, I think this is the only side of the root ball that can really be tied in, so I just may not even use that other wire because this backside here just really has nothing to tie in there. And the pot, or the tree, should not be right in the center of the pot. It's supposed to be off center just a little bit. And since it's kind of, you can see it's kind of coming that way, I'm going to have it off center to where the base is over here and it's kind of coming over there a little bit just to kind of balance itself off in the pot. I'm going to go ahead and get the soil in there. A lot of people, they teach that you should then, now is the time that you should tie the tree in and then put the soil on top to try to hide the wires so you can't tell that it's been tied in. I don't really like to, I tie in, I don't know, maybe half my trees that are in, in kind of a good state that isn't just a cutting or whatever, but I don't like the idea of tying the ports in because they hate to have their roots cut into and things like that. That promotes rot and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to backfill it first, and we're kind of finished potting it, and then tie it over the top. And then once I realize that this thing has established itself again or whatever, I'll go ahead and cut those wires out and just take them off completely once it's kind of got itself established in the pot. Should be a flat enough pot, which I can show you here in a minute, just that where the roots should grow out radially. And I'm going to go ahead and see, even already with some of the soil on there, it's a little less bouncy. I thought about eliminating that root there altogether. That actually may go right under the wire when I wire that side in. Right now, the back side is going to have a few surface roots kind of showing too. I'm not going to worry about them too much. I might get that bigger one there. Yeah, you can see it's still kind of a little shaky in the pot. I'm going to hold off on deciding what I'm going to do about cutting the top off a little more to make it a little less top heavy here in a minute. I'll just leave that there, the rest of that there, and see if it continues to grow from there, that may become part of the nabari. Next time I repot it, which in all honesty, I'm thinking maybe like 10 years or something like that. This guy should really just stay in here and be pot bound for a long time. But now that I've got that in, I'll go ahead. Well, first, And it did help quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of twist this side together, even though there might be enough of a root ball in the back there. Where it might hold it steady. Alright, and there we are. You can see it's a brown glazed pot. Brown isn't the best color for ficus, and that's most of my other trees. It's a decent color for this. I think it's about the good proportion and everything here, but you see it's still not the steadiest thing in there, even though I did tie it in. And you can see I was going to explain it a little more once I got the better camera angle and out of that little mixing pot that I used there, but I'll leave those wires sticking up. And probably, maybe 3-4 months, maybe the next time it's ready for a pruning or whatever, I'll go ahead and just take those off. So I'll leave them up there so I can find them real easy or whatever. I actually have one out there right now in a very similar pot that I have the wires actually sticking up. I took them off a few weeks ago just to see if it was holding steady in there, and I figured I'd just leave them in there just in case I had to retie it. But I think they're ready to come out because it's lasted that long. I don't like how top heavy it is, so I think I'm going to reduce it just a little bit. And this piece, well, that would bring it out this way. And here in a minute I might even go a little bit further than that. And take a look at that. I think that might be all I do. It was growing really strong out of there. Should get another, it'd be nice to get another leader right out of there. I thought about taking this off too as I was kind of looking at it. But I think I'm just going to leave it like it is. It is a little less top heavy than it was a second ago. This side's a little heavier than the other side too. So I might go ahead and trim a little more of that off. But now what I'll do, as you can see, it had very little roots. I trimmed a lot of them off. But what I'll do now is just kind of, I'll leave it. I wish I had some place where I could get it in full sunlight, but no rain. But I don't really have any place like that. So I'm gonna have to put it on my lanai where it can get like a couple hours of morning sun, and then the rest of the day it's shaded, but it'll also be protected from the rain. Sun, you know, for this guy right now would be great. It is a succulent, so it's stored a bunch of water up in here, and what it's going to do is, you know, sometimes we talk about the plants like they have a brain, but they don't, but you know, in a minute. It's going to realize that it's not growing, and it's going to start pulling some of the energy that it has stored here to make roots. It's going to use the water that's stored in the leaves here to make roots. And then as it makes roots, I'll notice it start getting a little more and more steady, and then because it's in really good soil and everything, as soon as it starts to make roots, these will shrivel up a little bit and then start growing some little tiny leaves. Depending on, you know, how interesting it looks at the time, I might make a follow-up video for it or whatever. But when it does that, I'll start watering it, or just, you know, it'll still be rainy season here, so I'll just put it out where it can get full sun and rain and see what happens from there.